Have you ever been in a moment where everything falls silent? No words, no explanations, just a quiet space that feels heavier than any argument. That silence can feel confusing, painful, even frightening. It's a silence that speaks louder than words, yet most of us don't know how to listen to it. What if I told you that silence, especially when it comes from a woman's mind, holds a power few ever truly understand? That behind that quiet space, there's a whole world of feelings, thoughts, and struggles waiting to be seen. This isn't just about being quiet, it's about what silence really means, and why it's one of the most honest and profound expressions of the human heart. When a woman goes silent, it's not because she has nothing to say, it's because she is saying something far deeper than words can capture. Silence is her mind's way of protecting itself, a refuge from overwhelming emotions, a moment to gather strength. It's a signal, not an absence. Think about it. How many times have you felt silence from someone you care about and rushed to fill it with noise, explanations, or anger? Yet that silence wasn't emptiness. It was a language rooted in pain, confusion, or fear, but also in hope and healing. Understanding this truth changes everything. It shifts how you see silence, not as rejection or coldness, but as a deeply human response to emotional complexity. This silence isn't random. It's born from the way women's minds are wired, from the unique dance of emotions and thoughts that flow beneath the surface. Science shows that women's brains process emotions with incredible depth and sensitivity. When faced with hurt or stress, the mind instinctively retreats into silence, not to shut down, but to make sense of what feels too heavy to speak out loud. It's a natural pause, a way to protect the heart while trying to heal it. And when you recognize this, your whole perspective on relationships, communication, and connection transforms. Imagine the power in truly seeing this silence, in understanding the invisible battle raging beneath it. Imagine how your life would change if you stopped fearing silence and started listening to it with curiosity and care. The emotional distance that once felt so wide begins to shrink. The walls built by misunderstanding start to crumble, and in their place, trust and empathy grow stronger. This is the promise of embracing the truth about silence. It invites us to connect more deeply, not just with others but with ourselves. By staying with this journey, you're giving yourself a chance to unlock a new kind of strength. You'll discover that silence isn't a void, it's a door to deeper understanding, greater compassion, and real transformation. And this isn't just theory, it's a path rooted in psychology, human experience, and the quiet courage found in millions of women's hearts. So as you listen, prepare to be challenged, moved, and inspired. Because what happens when you go silent is not an ending, it's the beginning of something powerful, something real. Stay with me, and together we will explore this silence. We will uncover the truth about women's minds, and in doing so, you'll find the keys to unlocking your own courage to listen, to understand, and to love in ways you never thought possible. This is more than just a conversation about silence. It's a call to awaken empathy, to embrace emotional truth, and to transform the way we connect. The silence is waiting. Are you ready to hear what it has to say? Silence is never simple. It carries layers of emotion that run deep beneath the surface. When a woman goes silent, it's often because her mind is flooded with feelings too intense or tangled to put into words. There's a depth to this silence, a depth shaped by the intricate ways her brain processes emotions. Science reveals that women's brains are wired to experience emotions more vividly, to feel the weight of relationships and to hold those feelings close, sometimes until they become overwhelming. This silence is a mirror reflecting the complex emotional landscape inside her mind. It is not emptiness, but fullness, a storm of thoughts and feelings seeking space to breathe. You might think silence means retreat or giving up. But what if silence is actually a powerful response to emotional overload? It's a pause, a sacred moment where the mind steps back to protect itself. When the heart is bruised or the soul feels exposed, silence becomes a shield, a quiet fortress built from the need to regain control and safety. To truly understand this is to move beyond frustration or confusion and step into a place of empathy. It means recognizing that beneath the stillness lies a mind working tirelessly to process pain, fear, love, and hope all at once. This silence can feel like a barrier, but it is actually a doorway that leads to a profound inner world filled with questions, fears, and dreams that aren't yet ready to be spoken aloud. It's a space where healing begins, often unseen and unheard by others. When you realize this, you begin to see silence not as rejection, but as an invitation, an unspoken request for patience, understanding, and compassion. It's a call to look beyond what is said, to listen with your heart, and to honor the quiet complexity of her mind. The emotional intensity behind silence is rooted in a deep need for safety. The mind craves a space free from judgment, criticism, or misunderstanding. It needs the time to untangle emotions that feel overwhelming. This is why silence can be so hard to bear for those on the outside. It feels like distance or disconnection. But on the inside, it is often the mind's way of finding peace amidst chaos. Recognizing this transforms how you respond to silence. Instead of pushing for answers or reacting with frustration, you can choose to hold space, allowing healing to unfold naturally. There is also a profound courage in silence that goes unnoticed. It takes strength to face intense emotions without immediately expressing them. It takes bravery to endure the storm inside without collapsing. This silent courage is a testament to resilience and self-protection. Understanding this helps shift your perspective, inviting you to respect the quiet moments as acts of strength, not weakness. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest battles happen within the mind, far away from the eyes of the world. By embracing this truth, you become part of a powerful transformation, not just for others, but for yourself. You learn to see silence as a vital emotional process, a bridge between pain and healing, confusion and clarity. This awareness deepens your capacity for empathy and patience. It teaches you to listen beyond words, to connect beyond surface appearances. And in doing so, you unlock a new level of emotional intelligence that can change the way you relate to every person in your life. The silence is full of meaning. It's the language of the heart when words fail. It's the mind's way of protecting itself, a silent cry for understanding and connection. To truly honor this silence is to honor the emotional depth and complexity of the human experience. When you allow yourself to see this, you step into a place of greater compassion, wisdom, and courage. The quiet moments no longer feel like walls between you and someone else. They become bridges, connecting minds, hearts, and souls in ways you never imagined possible. This is the power hidden within silence, the power to transform pain into understanding, distance into closeness, confusion into clarity. It's an invitation to move beyond fear and frustration, and to embrace the full, rich complexity of human emotion. And as you accept this, you are not just a passive observer, you become an active participant in the healing journey. A journey that starts in silence but leads to a voice stronger, clearer, and more authentic than ever before. At the heart of silence lies a profound fear, the fear of being vulnerable. Vulnerability is one of the most courageous acts a person can make, yet it is also one of the most terrifying. For many women, silence is a shield against this fear. It is the mind's way of protecting a heart that is afraid to be seen fully, afraid to be hurt, rejected, or misunderstood. Vulnerability means opening up, exposing the raw and unfiltered self. And when the world has not always been kind or safe, silence becomes a form of armor, a way to guard the fragile parts that yearn for connection but dread pain. This fear is not weakness, it is survival. It is the echo of every moment when trust was broken or empathy was withheld. The mind remembers even when the heart tries to forget. So silence grows, not out of indifference, but out of a desperate need to protect what is most precious inside. Understanding this fear changes how you see silence. It shifts from being a barrier to becoming a beacon, an invitation to approach with gentleness, patience, and care. When you grasp this, you realize that breaking through silence is not about forcing words, but about creating a space where vulnerability can be welcomed, not feared. Psychology shows us that vulnerability is the birthplace of trust, intimacy, and true connection. Yet it demands something difficult, courage. Courage to face the unknown, to risk exposure, to stand in the uncomfortable truth of who we are. When silence dominates, it signals that this courage is being summoned, but the mind is not yet ready to surrender control. It holds back to protect itself from potential pain. Recognizing this helps you develop empathy, not just for silence, but for the immense bravery it represents. Every silent moment is a quiet battle between fear and hope, between retreat and the desire to be understood. This battle is exhausting. It drains emotional energy and clouds the mind with doubt and uncertainty. The mind weighs every possibility, tries to predict every outcome, and wonders if the risk of speaking out is worth the pain it might bring. This internal struggle is invisible to most, but it is very real and deeply felt. The silence that follows is not emptiness. It is the mind's way of navigating this turmoil. It is a holding pattern, a necessary space for gathering strength before the leap toward vulnerability can happen. Imagine how transformative it would be to approach this silence not with impatience or judgment, but with compassion, to see it as a sign of courage building beneath the surface, to understand that the silence holds a promise, that one day the voice will come forth, clearer and stronger because it was forged in the fire of fear and resilience. This awareness invites you to become a guardian of that silence, someone who creates the conditions where vulnerability is not only safe, but celebrated. The truth is, vulnerability is not a weakness to be hidden away. It is the key to genuine connection and profound growth. And silence, as difficult as it may be, is part of the journey toward that key. When you learn to honor this fear instead of dismissing it, you open a door to deeper empathy and trust. You begin to see that silence is not the end of communication, but the beginning of something more meaningful. A silence that protects vulnerability is a silence filled with potential, the potential for healing, understanding, and transformation. This fear of vulnerability within silence is a universal human experience, yet it often goes unseen and unspoken. By recognizing it, you break the cycle of misunderstanding and isolation. You take the first step toward breaking down walls that keep hearts distant. You learn to hold space for the quiet courage that is working tirelessly behind the scenes. And in doing so, you create the conditions for real connection, where silence no longer feels like a threat, but a sacred moment on the path to emotional freedom. To honor this fear, to respect this silence, is to choose courage over fear, empathy over judgment, and love over distance. It is to understand that silence is not the absence of emotion, but a profound expression of it, and when you embrace this truth, you become part of a transformation far greater than yourself, a transformation that begins quietly inside the mind and ripples outward to touch every relationship, every connection, every life you encounter. Within the silence lies an intense battle between the mind and the heart, a struggle that few truly witness but all can feel. The mind seeks logic, clarity, and control. It wants to analyze, to understand, and to find solutions. It craves calm and order amidst the chaos of emotions. But the heart? The heart is raw, wild, and overflowing with feelings that cannot always be neatly packaged or explained. When silence takes hold, it is often because these two forces are wrestling for dominance inside, each desperate to protect the self in its own way. This internal conflict is exhausting. The mind wants to rationalize the pain, to push through it with reason, but the heart resists, demanding to be heard, to be acknowledged, to be felt. The silence is the space where this battle rages, a battlefield where confusion and clarity, fear and hope, meet and clash. The mind tries to maintain control, yet the heart's voice is too powerful to ignore. This tension creates a pressure so intense, it demands silence as a refuge, a moment to pause, to breathe, to hold everything without having to resolve it immediately. When you understand this, silence stops feeling like a cold, empty void, and instead becomes a powerful container for transformation. It is here that the mind slowly learns to soften, to make room for feelings that have been pushed aside or ignored. The heart begins to calm, knowing it is safe to release what it has been holding in. This battle is not a sign of weakness but of incredible strength. It shows that deep inside, there is a relentless desire to find peace, to integrate the storm of emotions with the clarity of thought. The mind-heart struggle within silence is also a process of self-protection. It shields the vulnerable parts from being overwhelmed. It allows time to sort through emotions without pressure, to weigh the risks of opening up. This internal dialogue, though invisible, is fierce and demanding. It can leave a woman feeling drained, conflicted, and unsure. Yet it is essential because it prepares the soul for the moment when vulnerability can be embraced, not forced, but chosen freely. This moment is the doorway to healing and connection. This battle, this silence, invites you to practice extraordinary patience, not only with others but with yourself. It asks you to resist the urge to rush, to fix, or to demand immediate answers. Instead, it calls for gentle acceptance of the messy, complicated truth that transformation takes time. The silence is sacred, a sign that something profound is unfolding beneath the surface. To honor this is to honor the full spectrum of human experience, the pain, the fear, the hope, and the courage, all wrapped into one quiet moment. Within this silence, you begin to recognize the incredible resilience of the human spirit. The mind and heart may clash, but they also learn to dance together, slowly finding balance. This dance creates a rhythm of understanding, acceptance, and growth. It allows for emotional release without judgment and mental clarity without dismissal. This is the space where true healing begins, where silence stops being a barrier and becomes a bridge. By embracing this truth, you cultivate a deeper connection not only with others but with yourself. You become attuned to the signals beneath the surface, learning to listen with compassion and insight. You see that silence is not a sign of failure or distance, but a complex, beautiful process of emotional integration. It teaches you that strength is not always loud or visible. It often lives in the quiet moments when the mind and heart are fighting to find peace. This understanding empowers you to respond to silence with grace, patience, and empathy. It transforms frustration into curiosity, impatience into calm. It invites you to hold space for the inner battle without trying to control or change it. When you do this, you become a beacon of safety and trust. You create the conditions where silence can slowly unravel, where vulnerability can emerge, and where genuine connection can be born. The battle between mind and heart is not a problem to be solved quickly. It is a process to be honored deeply. It is a journey through silence toward clarity, strength, and love. And by embracing this journey, you step into a new level of emotional wisdom, one that will change how you relate to yourself and everyone around you. This is the silent courage that lives inside every woman's mind, the courage to face the storm within and emerge whole. Every silence carries a message, unspoken, yet profoundly clear to those willing to listen. It's easy to overlook these quiet moments, or misinterpret them as distance or disinterest. But beneath the silence lies a rich tapestry of feelings. Disappointment, fear, longing, love, and hope, all woven together in a way words often cannot capture. The truth is, silence speaks volumes. It communicates what the mind struggles to express, and what the heart dares not shout aloud. To hear these hidden messages, you must learn to listen beyond the surface, to read between the spaces where words fade away. When a woman retreats into silence, she is sending signals, asking for something deeper than conversation. She is inviting you to slow down, to be present, to connect in a way that transcends language. Silence becomes a subtle dialogue, a language of the soul that demands patience and attention. It reveals truths that are too vulnerable to say outright, and it guards feelings that need time to be understood. If you learn to embrace this language, you unlock a powerful key to empathy and connection, one that transforms relationships from shallow exchanges into meaningful bonds. Many fail to recognize these silent messages because we are conditioned to value speech over stillness, words over quiet reflection. Yet silence is an essential part of communication, especially in the emotional world. It's a space where emotions gather strength, where thoughts become clearer, and where the heart finds courage. The silence holds the power to reveal what is often hidden beneath smiles and polite conversations, the true feelings waiting to be acknowledged. To dismiss silence is to miss the opportunity to truly understand, to truly connect. This awareness changes the way you experience silence. It becomes less threatening and more inviting. Instead of rushing to fill the void with noise or explanations, you begin to respect the pause. You start to see silence as a gift, an opportunity to listen more deeply, to hold space for emotions that need time to unfold. This shift requires practice and humility, but the rewards are profound. You move from misunderstanding to insight, from frustration to compassion. You learn that silence is not a wall but a window, a glimpse into the emotional world waiting to be embraced. Recognizing the hidden messages in silence also teaches you about your own emotional landscape. It encourages you to honor your quiet moments, to value the times when your mind needs space to process. Silence becomes a tool for self-awareness and growth, a necessary pause in a world that demands constant noise. It invites you to trust the unspoken parts of yourself, to believe that even in stillness you are evolving, healing, and becoming stronger. This new way of seeing silence nurtures patience, the kind of patience that listens without judgment, that waits without pressure. It calls you to be present not only for others but for yourself. When you cultivate this patience, you become a source of calm and safety, a person who understands that sometimes the most powerful communication happens in quiet reflection. This presence allows others to lower their defenses, to step out of silence when they are ready, not when they are forced. The hidden messages in silence are a call to awaken your empathy and deepen your emotional intelligence. They remind you that connection is not always loud or immediate. Sometimes it is a gentle, steady presence that waits with open arms and an open heart. This is the kind of connection that heals wounds, builds trust, and transforms lives. It teaches you that to truly connect, you must sometimes embrace the quiet and listen with more than just your ears, with your soul. When you honor these silent messages, you step into a new realm of understanding and love. You become someone who can hold space for complexity and contradiction, who can see the invisible threads that bind hearts together. This is the power hidden within silence, the power to transform isolation into intimacy, confusion into clarity, and pain into profound connection. It is a power waiting to be discovered in every quiet moment, if only you choose to listen. Silence is a sacred space where the mind and heart meet, but it can also become a prison when misunderstood. Often, silence is met with frustration or fear, because it feels like a withdrawal, a closing off. But what if that silence is actually an invitation to pause, to reflect, and to connect on a level far deeper than words allow? When you begin to see silence not as absence but as presence, a presence of thought, emotion, and healing, you open yourself to a transformative experience that reshapes every relationship you have. The truth is, silence is one of the most vulnerable places a person can inhabit. It's where emotions gather, often overwhelming and raw, demanding space to exist without judgment. For many women, silence is not a sign of indifference, but a protective response to being overwhelmed by feelings that are too complex or too painful to express right away. This silence requires patience and empathy, not pressure or demands. It asks us to slow down, to meet stillness with kindness, and to trust that within this quiet, profound work is happening. A subtle but powerful shift toward understanding and peace. Psychology tells us that when people retreat into silence, their brains are often working overtime to process emotions, memories, and fears. The brain's emotional centers activate, seeking safety and clarity before words can surface. This is why silence can feel so charged, so heavy. It's the mind's way of managing inner chaos. Recognizing this helps you see silence not as coldness, but as a sign of deep internal work. It is a moment of recalibration, where the mind gathers strength to face vulnerability. This perspective transforms silence from a barrier into a bridge, one that leads to empathy, connection, and healing. To embrace silence as a bridge, you must first become comfortable with discomfort. Silence often brings uncertainty, and uncertainty can trigger fear. But fear is a natural part of growth. It is the mind's alarm system warning that something important is unfolding. When you resist silence, you resist growth. When you accept it, you invite transformation. This acceptance is an act of courage and love for yourself and love for others. It is a recognition that true connection cannot be rushed or forced. It must be nurtured patiently, in the spaces between words. Learning to sit with silence means developing a new kind of emotional strength, the strength to hold space without filling it, to be present without needing answers, and to offer support without needing control. This strength changes how you relate to others and how you relate to yourself. It teaches you to honor your own quiet moments as times of healing and reflection. It encourages you to trust that even when words are absent, communication is still happening, often more powerfully than before. This shift also deepens your emotional intelligence, allowing you to sense what is unsaid and to respond with empathy instead of impatience. You begin to understand that silence is not a sign of distance, but a sign of depth. It reveals the complexities of the human mind, how thoughts and feelings intertwine, sometimes silently, until the right moment to emerge. This insight frees you from the fear of silence and invites you to embrace it as a natural, necessary part of emotional connection. When you truly accept silence, you become a safe harbor, in the storm of emotions. You create a space where others can be vulnerable at their own pace, without pressure or fear of judgment. This presence is a rare and powerful gift, one that fosters trust and intimacy. It transforms silence from something to be feared into something to be cherished, a sacred pause that holds the potential for profound growth and healing. Silence, then, is not an obstacle but an opportunity. It challenges you to rise above frustration, to lean into patience, and to deepen your capacity for empathy. It invites you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart and soul. And when you do, you unlock a new level of understanding and connection, one that can change your relationships and your life forever. This is the power of silence, a power waiting quietly within every moment, ready to awaken your greatest strength. Silence often carries a weight heavier than words could ever bear. It is in these quiet moments that the mind wrestles with conflicting emotions, grappling with pain, hope, and uncertainty all at once. When silence takes over, it's not a sign of absence. It's a sign of something deeply alive, something stirring beneath the surface that demands attention and respect. To truly understand this silence, you must shift your perspective from impatience to curiosity, from frustration to profound compassion. This change opens the door to a deeper, more authentic connection with yourself and those around you. Within silence, there is a powerful invitation to become present without distraction, to listen without judgment, and to hold space without trying to fix or explain. This is not easy. It challenges the human desire for control and clarity, pushing you into the unknown where uncertainty and vulnerability reside. But it is precisely in this unknown space that transformation happens. The mind begins to soften, the heart opens, and true understanding takes root. Embracing silence is embracing the messy, beautiful complexity of human emotion, allowing it to flow freely rather than be stifled by fear or expectation. Psychological research reveals that silence activates deep processing within the brain, allowing unresolved feelings to surface and integrate. It is a critical part of emotional healing and growth. When you resist silence, you resist this natural process, prolonging confusion and pain. When you accept it, you create a fertile ground for insight and renewal. This acceptance is an act of courage, an acknowledgement that healing is not a quick fix, but a journey that requires patience, empathy, and faith in the power of time. Learning to honor silence also means learning to honor your own internal rhythms. It teaches you that it's okay to pause, to take breaks, and to allow your mind and heart to rest. In a world that constantly demands action and noise, silence becomes a radical act of self-care and self-respect. It reminds you that your value is not measured by how much you say or do, but by your willingness to be present with yourself in every moment, especially the quiet and difficult ones. This mindset shifts how you relate to others as well. You begin to see that silence is not rejection or distance, but a sacred space for emotional processing. It encourages you to approach silence with tenderness rather than impatience, to offer presence rather than answers. In doing so, you create a safe environment where vulnerability can emerge naturally, without fear of judgment or pressure. This is where true connection grows, rooted in trust, understanding, and mutual respect. The power of silence lies in its ability to hold contradictions, the pain and the hope, the fear and the courage, the retreat and the return. It allows the mind to untangle these threads, creating clarity from confusion and peace from turmoil. By sitting with silence instead of running from it, you cultivate resilience and emotional intelligence. You learn that strength is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it is found in the quiet persistence of the heart and mind working together to heal and grow. When you choose to embrace silence, you become a witness to the transformative process of the human spirit. You honor the courage it takes to face one's fears, to confront pain, and to slowly open up to connection. You recognize that silence is not an ending but a beginning, a doorway to deeper self-awareness, empathy, and love. This is a powerful shift that changes how you experience relationships and life itself. Silence, then, is a profound teacher. It asks you to slow down, to listen deeply, and to trust the unfolding journey within. When you respond to silence with presence and compassion, you step into a space of healing and transformation. You become part of a larger story, the story of growth, connection, and the unwavering human capacity to rise, even when words fail. This is the truth held within silence, waiting patiently for you to discover its power. To truly understand the silence that fills the spaces between words, you must first confront the fear that often hides beneath it, the fear of being misunderstood, rejected, or left alone. This fear is real and primal, lodged deep within the psyche. It shapes how silence is experienced, turning it into a battlefield rather than a sanctuary. But what if you could transform that fear into something different? What if silence became a place not of isolation but of immense power, a space where healing begins, where courage grows, and where the deepest parts of ourselves find voice in their own time? Fear in silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal that the mind and heart are protecting something precious. It is a warning that the emotions held inside are vulnerable and need care. When you recognize this, you begin to see silence as an act of bravery, not withdrawal. It is a conscious decision to guard what is fragile, while the mind works to make sense of it all. This understanding shifts your perspective, inviting you to meet silence with compassion instead of frustration, with patience instead of impatience. Science supports this view. Studies show that fear activates the brain's threat response, causing the body to tense and the mind to retreat. This reaction makes opening up incredibly difficult. Silence becomes a necessary refuge, a place to gather strength before vulnerability can be embraced. Acknowledging this biological reality deepens your empathy and patience, helping you to hold space for others and for yourself without judgment or pressure. This space of silence and fear holds immense transformational potential. It is here that courage is born. The courage to face inner turmoil without running away. The courage to confront uncertainty without control. And the courage to be seen as you truly are, even when that truth feels fragile. When you honor this courage, you begin to build trust with yourself and others. You allow vulnerability to emerge naturally, knowing that silence is not emptiness but a fertile ground for growth. Embracing this truth changes how you engage with silence and fear. Instead of pushing them aside, you lean into them with curiosity and kindness. You learn to ask, what is this fear trying to protect? And how can I honor this silence as part of my healing? These questions open doors to self-awareness and emotional resilience. They teach you that silence is not a void to be feared, but a doorway to deeper understanding and connection. In this space, you develop a new form of strength, one that does not rely on constant action or control, but on presence and acceptance. You become someone who can hold complexity without needing to simplify it, who can sit with discomfort without fleeing from it. This strength transforms your relationships by creating an atmosphere of safety and trust. Others sense your acceptance and feel more willing to step out of their own silence when they are ready. Recognizing the fear beneath silence also invites you to heal old wounds. It reveals how past experiences of rejection or misunderstanding have shaped your responses today. This awareness empowers you to break cycles of fear and avoidance, to choose connection over isolation, and to build bridges where before there were walls. It is a journey of reclaiming your voice, not by rushing to speak, but by patiently allowing your truth to unfold in its own time. The power of silence lies in its ability to hold both fear and hope simultaneously. It is a space where transformation happens slowly but surely, where the mind and heart find harmony, and where courage becomes a quiet but unstoppable force. When you choose to meet silence with empathy and patience, you tap into this power and awaken a deeper part of yourself. This awakening changes everything. It reshapes how you view vulnerability, communication, and connection. It teaches you that true strength is not in speaking loudly or often, but in the willingness to be still, to listen, and to hold space for the unknown. In this willingness, you discover a profound freedom, the freedom to be fully human, fully present, and fully alive. Silence, once feared, becomes your greatest ally on the path to transformation. Silence is not simply the absence of sound. It is the presence of something profound, something alive beneath the surface. When silence takes over, it calls on us to shift our focus inward, to listen not just to what is said, but to what remains unspoken. This requires a level of awareness and sensitivity that goes beyond casual attention. It demands that we become attuned to subtle shifts in emotion, to the rhythms of breath, to the invisible currents of thought that flow beneath quiet expressions. This is a skill, an art, that can be cultivated with intention and care, and when it is, it transforms every connection into something richer and more meaningful. The mind craves clarity, but the heart understands complexity. Silence holds the tension between these two forces, inviting us to sit with paradox and uncertainty. This space between clarity and confusion is where true growth occurs. It is uncomfortable, yes, but it is also sacred. Within this tension, the mind begins to unravel patterns of thought that no longer serve us. Old fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs surface, not to trap us but to be seen and released. When we honor this process, we create room for new insights, new perspectives, and ultimately, new ways of being. Women's minds, shaped by intricate emotional wiring and social conditioning, often navigate these silent spaces with an intense inner dialogue. This dialogue is rich and complex, processing feelings layer by layer, weighing possibilities and searching for safety. Understanding this inner world is key to appreciating the depth of silence. It is not emptiness, it is a dynamic, ongoing conversation within herself, a private sanctuary where emotions are tested, hopes are nurtured, and resilience is forged. Recognizing this transforms silence from a source of confusion into a beacon of insight and strength. To truly embrace this understanding, you must practice deep empathy, not just the kind that feels sympathy from afar, but the kind that steps fully into another's experience without judgment or impatience. This empathy allows you to be present with silence without rushing to fix, explain, or interrupt. It teaches you to honor the timing of healing and expression, recognizing that everyone's journey unfolds at its own pace. When you embody this presence, you offer a powerful gift, the gift of feeling truly seen and accepted, even when words fail. This presence in silence also strengthens your own emotional resilience. It trains you to withstand uncertainty, to tolerate discomfort, and to trust the process of growth. These qualities are invaluable, not only in relationships but in every aspect of life. They allow you to face challenges with steadiness, to recover from setbacks with grace, and to remain grounded amid chaos. Silence becomes a wellspring of inner power, a place where you recharge and realign with your true self. Science reveals that moments of quiet reflection activate parts of the brain associated with creativity, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. This explains why silence, when embraced rather than feared, can lead to breakthroughs and healing. It is a natural reset button for the mind and heart, clearing away the noise and clutter to reveal what truly matters. By valuing silence, you unlock this potential for renewal and transformation within yourself and in your relationships. This transformation shifts how you engage with the world. You become less reactive and more intentional. You listen more deeply, speak more authentically, and act with greater clarity. Your relationships grow stronger, grounded not in superficial conversation, but in genuine understanding and trust. You begin to experience connection, not as something to be earned or controlled, but as a natural outcome of presence and empathy. Ultimately, embracing silence teaches you a profound truth, that real connection happens not in the noise of constant communication, but in the spaces where two souls meet quietly, vulnerably, and without pretense. It is here, in this sacred silence, that healing happens, trust builds, and love deepens. This is the gift waiting for you when you choose to stop fearing silence and start honoring it. It is a path to inner freedom, deeper relationships, and a life lived with courage and heart. When you begin to see silence as a language of its own, you unlock a new dimension of understanding, one that goes beyond words and surfaces to something far deeper. Silence speaks through presence, through subtle shifts in energy, through the unspoken emotions that ripple beneath the surface. Learning to read this language requires patience and practice, but the reward is immeasurable. You gain access to a hidden world of connection, where true empathy and compassion flourish, and where healing can take root in the quietest moments. This silent language is especially profound in the way women's minds communicate. Women often process emotions inwardly, sorting through feelings with a complexity and depth that cannot be rushed or simplified. Their silence is not a refusal to engage, it is an essential part of processing, a way to gather strength and clarity before sharing what truly matters. Recognizing this shifts your perspective from seeing silence as withdrawal to understanding it as a vital step in emotional expression and connection. Neuroscience shows us that emotional processing activates networks in the brain that need time and quiet to function effectively. When this process is interrupted or rushed, it can cause distress, misunderstanding, and frustration. By honoring silence, you allow these networks to operate naturally, enabling emotional healing and clearer communication. This respect for internal timing builds trust and safety, the foundation upon which meaningful relationships are built. To embrace this truth is to cultivate deep patience, not passive waiting, but an active, compassionate presence. It means resisting the urge to fill every gap with words or explanations, and instead allowing silence to breathe and unfold. This patience teaches you humility, reminding you that not everything needs immediate resolution. Some things require space, time, and quiet reflection to reveal their true meaning. Within this space, you begin to witness a profound transformation. The tension that silence once held starts to dissolve, replaced by calm and clarity. The heart softens, the mind becomes more focused, and empathy deepens. You become more attuned to the emotional landscapes of those around you, sensing what is unspoken, and responding with kindness and understanding. This attunement creates an invisible bond that transcends words, connecting souls in a way that is both powerful and gentle. This bond changes how you relate not only to others but also to yourself. You learn to honor your own moments of silence as times of growth and renewal. You recognize that your inner quiet is not emptiness but a source of wisdom and strength. This self-awareness empowers you to navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and grace, knowing that your silence is a sacred tool for transformation. As you practice this way of being, you begin to notice how it reshapes your relationships. Conversations become more authentic, conflicts less reactive, and connections more enduring. You no longer fear silence because you understand its purpose and power. Instead, you welcome it as a sign of depth and presence, trusting that it will lead to greater understanding and closeness. This shift is not easy, nor is it quick. It requires courage to face uncertainty and discomfort, but the rewards are profound, deeper emotional connection, enhanced self-awareness, and the ability to hold space for yourself and others with compassion and patience. You become a guardian of silence, honoring its role as a catalyst for healing and growth. In embracing silence, you step into a higher way of living, one that values depth over noise, presence over distraction, and connection over surface. You discover that silence is not a barrier but a bridge, inviting you to move beyond fear and frustration into a place of trust, love, and profound human connection. This is the power that silence holds, waiting quietly for you to awaken to its transformative gift. The moment you begin to accept silence as a powerful force rather than a void, your entire relationship with communication changes. You start to see that silence is not about absence, but about presence, being fully there without the need to fill every gap with noise or explanation. This presence is a radical act of respect, both for yourself and for those around you. It honors the complexity of emotions and the natural rhythms of the mind, allowing space for vulnerability and truth to emerge when the time is right. Understanding this requires you to confront the discomfort that silence often brings. Our culture teaches us to fear silence, to associate it with rejection, misunderstanding, or failure. We fill silence with words to mask uncertainty or to avoid confronting the deeper feelings that lie beneath. But when you learn to sit with silence without judgment, you open the door to emotional depth and clarity. You realize that silence can be the most honest and courageous form of communication, one that says, "I am here, I am listening. I respect what you are feeling, even if I don't have the words to express it." This kind of silence creates safety. It tells the mind and heart that it's okay to be vulnerable, to slow down, to process without pressure. When you create this safety for yourself, you become more resilient. When you offer it to others, you build trust that goes beyond surface conversation. Trust born from silence is rare and precious because it acknowledges the unspoken and holds it gently, without trying to change or fix it. The psychological impact of this trust is profound. When people feel truly seen and accepted, even in their silence, they experience a release of tension, a calming of the nervous system. This state opens the door for healing and growth. The brain, no longer stuck in fight or flight mode, can begin to repair and reorganize. Emotions that were once overwhelming can be understood and integrated, freeing the individual from patterns of pain and fear. This healing process requires patience and persistence. It is not about rushing to fix or forcing expression, but about creating a consistent environment where silence is valued and honored. Over time, this environment nurtures emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both in oneself and in relationships. Emotional intelligence is the foundation of meaningful connection, resilience, and personal transformation. As you cultivate this awareness, you realize that silence is also a powerful tool for self-discovery. In the quiet moments, without distractions or noise, you connect with your deepest truths. You become more aware of your needs, boundaries, and desires. This connection strengthens your sense of self and your ability to communicate authentically when you do choose to speak. The choice to embrace silence with courage and compassion is a declaration of self-respect and empowerment. It means trusting your inner wisdom and honoring your emotional process. It means allowing others the same space, recognizing that silence is not a sign of failure or disinterest, but a vital part of human connection. This shift rewires how you engage with the world. You become less reactive and more intentional, less driven by fear and more by understanding. Your relationships grow richer because they are built on genuine presence rather than forced words. You learn that true connection doesn't depend on constant talking, but on the willingness to be with each other, fully and authentically, even in silence. In this way, silence transforms from a barrier into a bridge that connects hearts and minds in the most profound way. It invites you to lean into uncertainty with trust, to find strength in vulnerability, and to discover a deeper level of connection than words alone can offer. This is the transformative power waiting for you in silence, ready to awaken your courage, compassion, and true voice. When silence is embraced with understanding and respect, it becomes a mirror reflecting the depths of the soul. It reveals what is hidden beneath the surface, unspoken fears, unmet needs, fragile hopes, and raw truths. To engage with silence in this way is to engage with authenticity itself. It demands courage to face what is revealed, and compassion to hold it without judgment. But this confrontation with truth is exactly what leads to transformation. It allows the mind to untangle confusion, the heart to release pain, and the spirit to find peace. This process is especially powerful in the context of women's inner worlds. The intricate dance between thought and feeling often unfolds quietly, and silence becomes the stage where this dance plays out. It is a place where complexity is honored rather than simplified, where emotions are felt fully rather than ignored or dismissed. Recognizing this invites you to step beyond impatience and frustration and instead offer presence and patience. It teaches you that silence is not a wall to break down, but a gateway to walk through with care. The psychological principle behind this lies in the brain's need for safety and time to process emotions. When these needs are met, emotional wounds begin to heal, and clarity emerges. The brain's natural rhythms slow, allowing space for reflection rather than reaction. This shift opens the door for empathy to deepen, not just empathy for others, but self-empathy, the often neglected kindness we owe ourselves. Self-empathy nurtures resilience, grounding you in your own worth and capacity to heal. Understanding silence as a sanctuary also changes how you approach communication. It becomes less about the need to fix or solve, and more about the willingness to listen and be present. In this presence, communication transforms into connection, a shared experience that doesn't always require words but thrives on mutual respect and trust. This kind of connection is rare because it demands vulnerability and courage, yet it is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. When you practice this level of presence, you create a ripple effect. Others feel safer to lower their guards, to drop pretenses, and to reveal their true selves. This authenticity invites reciprocity, fostering deeper bonds built on honesty rather than superficial exchanges. The quiet moments between words become rich with meaning, carrying a weight and depth that silence alone can hold. This shift also liberates you from the exhausting need to control outcomes or manage every interaction. It invites surrender, a surrender not to defeat but to the flow of genuine human experience. You learn to trust that silence has its own timing and wisdom, that it carries within it the seeds of growth waiting patiently to bloom. This trust frees you to be more present, more compassionate, and more resilient. By embracing silence this way, you cultivate emotional intelligence, a skill that strengthens your capacity to navigate life's challenges with grace and understanding. Emotional intelligence equips you to recognize your feelings, understand their origins, and express them thoughtfully. It enables you to respond to others with empathy rather than reaction, creating a foundation for harmony and healing. In this newfound relationship with silence, you also reclaim your voice, not by forcing expression, but by allowing your inner truth to surface naturally and authentically. You learn that silence and speech are not opposites but partners in a dance, each with its own time and purpose. When you honor both, you communicate not just with words but with presence, creating connection on a deeper level than language alone can reach. This journey transforms your experience of yourself and your relationships. You become someone who can hold complexity without fear, who listens without judgment, and who loves without conditions. In this transformation lies the true power of silence, the power to heal, connect, and awaken the fullest expression of who you are meant to be. When you begin to honor silence as a profound space for healing and growth, you open yourself to a level of emotional freedom few ever experience. This freedom comes from releasing the need to constantly explain, defend, or justify your feelings. It's the liberation of knowing that your worth is not tied to your ability to perform or to be understood immediately. Instead, it is rooted in the simple act of being, fully, authentically, without apology or pressure. This shift is transformative because it rewires your relationship with yourself and with the world around you. Silence becomes a sanctuary where self-compassion flourishes. In this sacred quiet, you give yourself permission to feel without judgment. You learn to listen deeply, not to the noise of external demands or expectations, but to the subtle whispers of your own heart. This kind of listening nurtures inner strength and resilience, allowing you to stand firm in your truth even when external voices push for conformity or silence. It empowers you to claim your emotional experience as valid and worthy, no matter how complex or uncomfortable it may be. The psychological power of this self-validation cannot be overstated. When you acknowledge and accept your feelings in silence, you prevent the buildup of unresolved tension and emotional turmoil. This prevents reactive patterns that often lead to miscommunication and conflict. Instead, you cultivate a calm clarity, a grounded presence that responds thoughtfully rather than reacts impulsively. This presence is magnetic. It draws others in and invites them to engage with you on a deeper, more meaningful level. Embracing silence also rewires how you handle uncertainty and discomfort. These are inevitable parts of life, yet most people fear them and try to avoid or suppress them. When you learn to sit with silence, you learn to sit with uncertainty without panic. You develop the courage to face what you cannot control, and the patience to allow answers and understanding to emerge naturally. This patience is a form of strength, quiet, steady, and unwavering. This inner strength reshapes your relationships profoundly. When you bring this calm presence into your interactions, you create a space where others feel safe to express themselves honestly. They sense your acceptance and patience, which lowers their defenses and opens the door to real connection. Conflicts lose their edge because they no longer trigger fear or avoidance. Instead, they become opportunities for growth and mutual understanding. At the same time, your ability to communicate deepens, not necessarily through more words, but through more meaningful ones. You speak less because you don't need to fill silence with empty chatter. You speak more because your words come from a place of clarity and emotional authenticity. This makes your voice stronger, not quieter, more impactful because it carries the weight of truth and presence. This journey invites you to release old fears about silence, that it means loneliness, rejection, or weakness, and replace them with a new understanding. Silence is a powerful expression of strength, wisdom, and love. It is a choice to slow down and honor the complexity of emotions rather than rush to resolve them. It is a commitment to being present even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. By embracing silence in this way, you awaken a deeper sense of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in others, and trust in the natural unfolding of life. You realize that silence is not a void to be feared, but a wellspring of insight and connection waiting to be tapped into. This trust becomes a guiding light, helping you navigate relationships and challenges with grace and confidence. Ultimately, learning to hold silence with courage and compassion transforms you into a more grounded, empathetic, and authentic human being. It empowers you to live fully in your truth, to communicate from a place of love rather than fear, and to build connections that nourish your soul. This is the true power of silence, the power to heal, to connect, and to transform every part of your life.